Ministry of Health confirms test results of blood samples collected from a 12-year-old suspected to have been killed by the deadly Ebola disease has proven negative.
Report from Noguchi Memorial Institute, states categorically that the samples of the blood, that they analyzed, is negative of Ebola virus.
The Noguchi Memorial Institute took samples of blood from the 12-year-old for testing following her death at the Comfort Anoche Teaching Hospital in Kumasi over the weekend. Suggestions the girl might have died of Ebola raised concerns among Ghanaian health officials and members of the public. The Minister of Health finally allayed those fears Monday morning when she announced test results proved negative. Meanwhile, Health Minister Sharia Iti says 66 quarantine centers have been set up, especially at health centers across the country.
A report from Noguchi Memorial Institute, states categorically that the samples of the blood, that they analyzed, is negative of Ebola virus and also negative of any common viral fever. And on this note, would like to allay the fears of Ghanaians, that the Ebola virus has actually been detected in Ghana. But however, since the news breakout of the Guinea infection, we have taken some major steps to ensure that we are fully in control of our national program. The steps that we have taken: last week we set up a national technical coordinating committee meeting to develop comprehensive preparedness and response plans for any Ebola outbreak in Ghana. We have also strengthened our surveillance, for any suspected cases that will be imported into Ghana. The technical committee has provided, their, requirements for the ministry to ensure that quarantine sectors are, built all over the country. Currently, we've agreed to establish 56 quarantine, centers across the country. We also need to provide, protective clothing to most of our hospitals and our, regional medical centers. And also, it is very important that we train, our medical, staff, our nurses, how to take care of themselves when a suspected case is reported to the hospital. Any case is a suspected case because not all fevers result in Ebola outbreak. So it is important that all suspected cases must be reported to the Ghana Health Service.
Well, the Ebola virus has already claimed more than 80 lives in Guinea alone. It has also been reported in Liberia, and Mali has also reported some cases. So with tests proving negative here in Ghana, what measures are in place to enable health officials deal quickly with any identified cases? And what is the level of education about Ebola in Ghana? My name is Stephen Enti, and this is today's big story. Well, welcome back, and we have on the telephone line Dr. Joseph Amankwa. Dr. Amankwa is the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service. Also, we'll be joined on the other telephone line later on in the discussion, Solomon Watkins, who is a Liberian journalist. He will be giving us a rundown of the Liberian situation, so we can do a quick comparative analysis of how the Ghana situation should look like, whether we have any basis to compare to the readiness of Liberia. So, Dr. Amankwa, thanks for joining us here on today's big story. Some will say it's good news that the test results proved negative. But is that all there is? If there is negative Ebola, didn't Noguchi test for anything else?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, since we got the information from WHO, from Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, we as a nation and as the Ministry of Health, had put together a team to develop a comprehensive preparedness and response plan.
Right.
This is what we've been doing in the past. When we had SARS, we did the same thing, H1N1, avian flu. And that plan has 5 thematic areas, and these are coordination, surveillance and monitoring of the situation, case management, risk communication, which is very important, and then how to mobilize logistics to support the whole system. And the plan has been presented to the minister this morning. The Minister of Information and Media Relations was also there at the press conference. And we have begun orientation of our staff last week, and our regional senior managers, including regional directors, were in Accra.
Right.
We took advantage and took them through what to do and how to follow up and to detect cases. And then we also brought our port health, those at our points of entry, and we've given them orientation on surveillance, you know, who to screen, what to look out for, and who to report, where to report, and so on and so forth. And as part of the plan, we are mobilizing the necessary logistics, and this will include personal protective clothing for staff who are in the facility, or laboratory staff who will be handling patients. And as you mentioned, yes, we got wind of, we received reports about because who died from a disease that we have excluded, Ebola virus. She was bleeding per-rectum, and they unfortunately died. The samples were sent to Noguchi, and the whole of last night they were working on samples, and it turned out that neither Ebola virus or any of what we call the hemorrhagic virus,
Right.
were responsible for the death of the girl.
Okay.
The samples are being analyzed for other causes. Usually, when you receive samples and your request is made, you first try to find out whether the request for which the sample has been brought is what is the cause, or what you intend to find. If you don't find that, then you look for other causes. Of course, several causes, several can lead to bleeding, apart from virus, chemicals, and herbal operations, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And so for us, the important thing is that we be on the lookout. That's why we're able to pick this patient, unfortunately, who died, and we excluded that it's not the Ebola virus.
Right.
But on the whole, we are prepared, we are preparing, we're on the lookout, and we are sure that if anything come up in the country, we'll take that thing as early as possible.
Right. Dr. Mankwa, I will have you hold. I will return to you so we explore the preparedness bit a little more. But we have on the other telephone line Liberian journalist Solomon Watkins, who is joining us from Liberia to have a chat with us about the Liberia situation. So thanks for joining us here on today's big story on Multi TV, Mr. Watkins.
Thank you very much.
Right. It's
basically in Liberia, the situation, every Liberians are expressing fear over the suspected cases being reported of Ebola. Confirmed suspected cases being reported so far as rating from 1 to 14.
Right.
And 6 Ebola-related deaths has also been reported. But the number of confirmed cases still stands at 2. Many cases that were diagnosed through medical reports have proven that 2 Ebola cases are being confirmed.
Right.
Apart, including one patient who died last week in Lofa County, which is in northern Liberia, and one patient who is in isolation at a hospital in Magiri County, which is near Monterrey County.
Right, Solomon, quickly, let me come in here. The Ministry of Health and Social Welfare in Liberia, can you tell us the measures, the preventive measures they've put in place for Liberian citizens to ensure that the cases are quickly detected and dealt with?
Basically, today, if you check on the streets of Liberia and what is obtaining now, based on the awareness carried out by the government of Liberia and the UN partners, Liberians have been so conscious about how to prevent the virus. Some of the preventive measures being put in place is to ensure that people avoid handshake. In the Liberian culture, handshaking is something that is very, it's something that every Liberians are used to. So it's the government is saying Liberians should avoid handshaking. And among some of the preventive measures, that Liberians should ensure that their houses can be coordinated to avoid cockroaches and other creeping insects that can easily spread the virus. Also, the government has bound the eating of meat, like baboon meat, like monkey's meat, and other meat that are suspected carrier of Ebola in the region.
Right. So Solomon, I mean, the banning of the banning of eating of meat, does it come from suspicion that the one hunter who was confirmed with the disease and died from Tapita, I think it's the Nimba County, is it suspected that he might have contracted this from eating game or wild animal whilst he was hunting? Is that the reason why the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare in Liberia is putting a ban on the eating of meat?
Basically, considering that Ebola was discovered since 1976 in Sudan, with all of the issues being suspected of Ebola, how Ebola is being spread in the continent, the Liberian government, understanding all of the means through which Ebola is being spread, they are saying to Liberians not to eat meat.
Right.
But obviously, in the rural parts of Liberia, including even Monrovia, Liberians love eating meat. Whether it's baboon, whether it's monkey meat, they dry it and eat it. So obviously, the government is saying avoid eating dry beef meat, especially meat that are being killed. Avoid eating them so as to prevent yourself from encountering or getting in touch with Ebola.
Right.
So Ebola, for all indication, in the rural parts is higher. People in the rural parts get this meat and they go to white to eat them like bats, like baboon meat, like monkeys. They eat them. Obviously, they eat them.
Right. So
but they are not being any cases reported. That this person is because the person ate meat, so the person came down with Ebola.
Right.
All of the cases being reported are suspected apart from the 2 diagnosed cases.
Right. Okay, so Solomon, we'll have you hold. We still have on our telephone line Dr. Joseph Amankwa, who is Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service. So, Dr. Amankwa, you heard, I'm sure you were listening to the Liberian journalists giving us a rundown of what the Liberian Ministry of Health and Social Welfare measures they're putting in place. This includes the ban of eating meat. I mean, is there anything of such nature the Ghana Health Service is planning in anticipation that of curbing the routes through which Ebola could be transmitted?
Yeah, thank you very much. Our messages, our public education messages are two-pronged and they focus on 2 areas. One, preventing the disease from getting from animals to human beings, and then also if it does occur in human beings, how to prevent it spreading among human beings.
But is there a public education campaign at all?
Yes, that's what we have in the plan, and indeed what we are
right. But it has not started, correct?
Yes, but we are just airing the messages now, and we'll be coming to you in due course to help us.
So tentatively, there is no action. Dr. Amankwa,
Yes.
so it means that currently there is no action. I mean, despite the fact that...
No, there is action.
Okay.
Currently, we are telling people how the disease spreads and what to do to prevent it spreading.
Right.
We are saying that the host, where the virus normally lives, is in the bat, okay, and from bat to wild animals. And so if you touch a wild animal that has the virus, that is sick or killed and it's not properly, cooked, and you eat that, you get it. You understand? So our messages are targeting we ourselves, protecting ourselves from getting into contact with wild animals, including bats. And if you have to eat a bush meat, you have to make sure it's properly cooked. If you have to handle it alive, and especially if it's dead, do not touch it. Otherwise, you may get a disease. But once the disease gets into human population, it's now the transmission from one person to person. And so what do? We are saying all those who have the signs and symptoms of the disease to report to nearest health facility.
Right.
You should avoid handling, patients who have the signs and symptoms. If you do, then you have to wear protective clothing, mask, gloves, goggles, and most importantly, hand washing with soap in running water is extremely important. And funerals, people who may die from the disease or symptoms that may be, they may make the disease, should be buried under supervision. And, under very hygienic conditions, our staff are there, including environmental health staff, who supervise the burial. And then those who come into contact with the patient, they may not know. So we follow them for 3 weeks to make sure that none of them show the signs and symptoms of the disease. If they do, we quickly get them to the nearest health facility where they are isolated so that they don't spread the disease to other, community members. Right. And our own staff, because you recall, even the recent beginning one, about 13 health workers have so far died.
But Dr. Amankwa, these measures you're talking about, how sure are you that they are effective measures? I mean, I'll give you an example. Typically, in Accra, there are still food joints which serve bat soup and fufu and things like that. So, I mean, if people are still eating bats, where it's most likely that they could get Ebola, I mean, are you certain that these measures would work?
Yeah, because, habits, don't go away like that. It takes time. And so what's important is for us to be, getting the messages across to the people. They may not know at all that eating bats, especially bats, touching them, when they are alive or raw, they can get a disease. Most people don't know. And so this is a time for us to bring the information to the messages to them. And with time, the people will change. If they know that eating bats will bring about this disease that is very fatal, people avoid doing that. They don't know. And so what we need to do is to put our hands on deck and ensure that the messages get to them.
Now, the Minister of Health also spoke about the setting up of 56 quarantine centers across health facilities in the country. These quarantine centers, what would they be for? Would they be to more like quarantine suspected cases or what?
Yeah, when we say quarantine, we mean that, for instance, if you're coming from area and you're suspected to have come into contact with a patient that has Ebola, we will keep you away for the period of incubation period of the virus, and that's a maximum 3 weeks. 3 weeks, right. So we find a place and you are there, you are fed, and you get all that you want. The only thing that those who are coming to you will have to be cautious. Right. After the 21 days, if you don't show signs and symptoms, you are released. Right. Okay? And then isolation is those who are already down and confirmed. We keep them so that those who take care of them, we do barrier netting, they are properly dressed, before getting, to them.
And this must come at a huge cost, I reckon.
Yeah, well, health, what's more important than making sure that, we are healthy. If we're healthy, we're productive. And so if it comes to a time that it's necessary to keep people who are exposed and we're sure they're exposed, we just have to find means and ways of doing that. But we haven't reached there yet.
Is Ghana prepared for a potential outbreak? I'm asking this in light of the fact that it does appear that the 12-year-old suspected case, the 12-year-old who died, it was a chance discovery. There were no proactive measures in order to detect these cases in advance. Is Ghana really ready?
I do agree with you, because the patient was rushed to the hospital and died a few hours on admission. And because we suspect that, it could be due to hemorrhagic, virus, that's why the samples were sent to Noguchi. Right. If we hadn't taken the sample, then, we would have just taken that we're not prepared. And indeed, 2 years ago, we picked Lassa fever, cases. And the transmissions are the same. 2, rats in Ashanti region, 2 of them, and 1 in Eastern region. And so we are prepared. We have a very sensitive surveillance system, and that surveillance system is able to detect all these cases, when they do occur.
Right. We're grateful for your time, Dr. Joseph Amankwa, Director of Ghana Health Service. We'll still have you hold. We're making efforts to reach Palmer Detti, who is with the Ghana Immigration Service, to get a fair idea of controls and measures at the country's various borders. Meanwhile, we still have on the telephone Solomon Watkins, who is a Liberian and Liberian journalist in Liberia. So, Solomon, I know that Ghana and Liberia are neighbors. Would you be surprised if some cases from Liberia sneak into Ghana?
Come again.
I'm asking you. I said that I do know that Ghana and Liberia have very close ties, and there are many Liberians who travel into Ghana, and there are many Ghanaians who travel into Liberia because of family relationships. Will it surprise you if cases of Ebola come into Ghana from Liberia?
First, let me just register that the fact is this, Ebola, from my own research and understanding from the present prevailing situation, I can clearly tell you that Ebola does not have passport. So in terms of traveling, Ebola travel, and at the end of the day, it gets to places they want to get. So obviously, I can tell you for sure, it won't be a surprising news. So what all governments in the West African region, including other parts of Africa, need to do is to ensure that there's a unanimous fight against this virus, because this virus, according to research has proven that it's incurable, it's deadly. So there is no reason that government now in world countries should wait until they can see Ebola become to affect their citizens before they can take serious measures to prevent Ebola.
So prevention really is the best method that Liberia is employing to deal with this the Ebola situation, right?
Yeah.
Good. So, I mean...
It's a cross-border...
So...
it's a cross-border trade in Liberia and Dallas. Right. Meaning that somehow it was suspected that through the cross-border trade, Liberia is not affected with this Ebola. But obviously, Ebola don't have a passport to cross a particular border.
I can understand.
Government, in my word, government needs to put in place necessary mechanisms to avoid Ebola entering their part of the country.
So how are journalists reporting the Ebola situation in Liberia? How well is the Ebola story being told in the Liberian media?
Basically, the media is doing her best to report on the issue, not being so sensational. Initially, based on conflicting reports from government that giving statistics about suspected Ebola in a particular setting and other things, make the media to report the way they reported initially. But for now, the reports are being coordinated through the Ministry of Health and only through the Ministry of Health. Panels and other health institutions at the country level are no longer reporting cases of suspected Ebola.
Right.
So you have information being coordinated, and the media is reporting as it is being coordinated. In terms of investigation, media is not investigating. Media is trying to investigate. So where there's need for investigation. But as you may be aware, if one comes in contact with a dead body without the protective covering, that person is likely to encounter Ebola. So for a journalist to say he wants to investigate, the fear is there to investigate. So that's one of the major fears of journalists in Liberia, to investigate as to whether these issues, these cases being reported are the reality, and considering that also it's a health-related issue, a medical journalist who is now a top practitioner, a reporter and analyzer, makes it so difficult for him to go beyond the bounds.
Right, thank you very much. Solomon Watkins is the Liberian journalist. He joined us from Liberia. So we still have on the line Dr. Joseph Amankwa, who will wrap up with us. So, Dr. Amankwa, let's get this in a minute or two. What do you have to say to civil society groups, journalists, and the general citizens about alertness on the issue of Ebola as we face the reality that there is the possibility that Ebola will come to us?
Yes, we want to inform the general public not to panic, and that the ministry is in control of things. We put in place the necessary measures that will ensure that if things do okay, we pick them very early, and that we are pleading with them to take the messages that will be airing, messages on avoiding, contact with wild animals, eating dead wild animals, avoiding, contact with patients who are, very ill and bleeding. And when they report early to the various facilities, we're in a position to ensure that we take care of them,
right,
and also to prevent the disease from spreading.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
The cooperation of the public is very important in this,
right.
But there are trying moments, and we know that the anxiety will be there, elements will be there, but people should keep their cool. We're in control of the situation.
Thank you very much. Dr. Joseph Amankwa says, keep your cool. The Minister of Health is in control of the situation on Ebola. My name is Stephen Enti, and that's how we wrap for today's big story. We'll be back with an interactive segment. Stay with us. Welcome back to the interactive segment, and Maran Toure is here. Maran Toure.
Yeah.
What's trending?
So many things are trending, and what is trending today is very sad. I don't know if you know that over 90,000 children actually live on the streets here in Accra alone.
I read the report and I was like, whoo, that's the whole city, right?
That's the whole city.
Anyway.
It's a community on its own, and I don't know, I'm feeling really bad about it to know that this is what it is, that in total, in total. Because
I'm told
the
that
research breaks it down to say 61,000 in some regions, an extra 24,000, but in total, yes, it's 90,000. That's amazing.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Well, so we need to know who is responsible for taking the kids out of the street.
But the parents are responsible for their children. I think ultimately they are responsible for their children.
Well, you don't know. You're not poor, so.
I'm not poor.
Well, let's hear what you have to say.
I know this is it's a very dicey one. I think I'll keep my opinion to myself on that one, and then continue with it. Thank you very much, Yao. Welcome to JN Interactive, and my name is Marian Toure. Welcome back. Welcome if you're just joining us. This is JN Interactive within today's big story. And what is trending, what we're talking about, is a report that is out. It's a joint Ghanaian-Italian report that says over 90,000 children live on the streets. Before we get into it, I'd like to announce all the social media tools that you need to get in touch with the show. You would find us on Facebook.com/joinnews, on TV, like our page, comment on all the posts we put there. I would amplify your voice by sharing it with the rest of the world. We are on Twitter. We tweet at Join News on TV. That is our handle. And if you're sending us a tweet, please remember to use the hashtag JNInteractiveGH, so we'll be able to sort all of them and take them all at once. I am on Twitter too, and I tweet at MN Toure. You will reach us. Email joinnewsim@multitvworld.com, and our WhatsApp number is 0260-518-801. And as we say here on JN Interactive, this is where tech meets news to set the agenda. So Welcome, and I think we should start now. According to a report titled Census on Street Children in the Greater Accra Region, which was carried out by the Department of Social Welfare and an NGO, Italian NGO, which is known as Riservo il Cooperazione, RC, there were 61,492 exactly street children in the Greater Accra region alone as at 2011. And in 2012, an additional 24,000 street children were also identified. And the 2011 document revealed that girls, some as young as 10 years, constitute 36,280 of the total number of children who live on the streets in the Greater Accra region alone, and this is 59% of the total of 61,492 street children who are loitering about on actually loitering about on the street. It's really amazing, and that is what is happening right now. But at this moment, I have a resource person whom I am hoping will be able to join us soon to actually address all of these issues. Why is it happening like that? You know, it's really amazing that you would have children and not be able to cater for them, and it will come to that, you know, point that people would have to be living on the streets. So the gentleman is here in the studio with me, and his name is Ishmael Hammond, and he actually works for an NGO for children with disabilities, and so he's here to actually talk to us about it. Hey, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
It's amazing, the reports, the findings of the reports that 90,000 children actually live on the street.
Yes.
I mean, when I saw the report, I was amazed. I don't know whether, one, it was because I was a woman or it's because I am a journalist to think that a lot of children like this will be living on the streets. But why this number?
Yes, I will first of all like to thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I also want to say good evening to your viewers. 90,000, but of course other NGOs have come out with other figures, even up to about 200,000. Wow. And you know what is also shocking is that more is going to come, because we've not really addressed the fundamentals, what really bring children to the streets. Yes, and that is one question that all NGOs, all organizations should be asking themselves. I think we've not really addressed the fundamentals. Right. Of course, children come to the streets because of poverty, broken home, and other factors. Right, and then actually some of the things that I'm reading from the report is that, you know, the causes they have identified as poverty, parental neglect, and broken homes. And additionally, they are saying that lack of a proper affirmation of roles, child disobedience, peer pressure. But you're on the street, you're on the ground with them. Yes. What are they saying? Yes, thank you. I work with an organization that targets street kids with learning difficulties. So for over 5 years, I've been in the streets every day to interact with these children and help them reintegrate with their families. From my professional experience, it seems that a lot of children have come to the streets not only because of poverty or broken home, but because they have dropped out from school and they've come to the streets. Right. Education is one of the fundamental keys why children drop out of school and come to the streets. A child with learning difficulties, you know, these children have some kind of learning difficulties and behavioral difficulties, and they are not even hardened in the streets. The issue of the stealing, peer pressure did not start in the street. It started even far away in their homes. So they were like that already in their homes. So the fundamental question is that they are having challenges. They are having educational and behavioral challenges. And that aspect has not been looked at. A lot of the parents that I interact with say that they can take care of their children, but yet it's the children that will not stay to be controlled or to go home. Right. There are a lot of stigma. When you go to school and you are a slow learner, you'll be laughed at. The Ghana education system as we have it does not promote inclusive education. These are the fundamental causes that, to me, from my experience, bring children to the streets. A lot of parents are saying that they can take care of their children, but yet is the children that will not stay because they are laughing at them at school and factors like this.
Okay. But then I'd like for us to take this video blog, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion and then look into the issues that are really causing these problems. Please don't go away, stay with us.
There were 61,492 street children in the Greater Accra region in 2011. In 2012, that number increased by an additional 24,000 street children. Who do you think should be held responsible for this issue? And what do you think we should do in order to help prevent this issue?
I would say to cut everything short is the nation, because things have turned upside down, because things are not going the right way that it seems. People are thinking of how to get a job to do. There's no job. People are thinking of how to get things done for their kids. They are not getting it. So if you are a parent, you're not being able to do all these things for your child, and the child thinks that my mother cannot give me food, he will go and roam around. And then when he roams around and then find out that, okay, I'm getting what I want here, I won't get it in the house, he's forced to stay there.
Also the case of migration, where a lot of young people cannot find jobs where they are. They probably finish SSS, they can't afford, they finish JSS, they can't afford SSS. So the only thing is to find jobs. So they leave their villages and they come to Accra. You find a lot of these boys who shine, shoe shine boys, you find the kayayos. Believe me, some of these things, people, if they get, they would have liked to further their education. And you imagine that they sleep by the streets, in front of shops, okay? So there's this thing where girls and boys, there are no parents to supervise them. What do you think will happen? Teenage pregnancy. There's also this thing that I found out around among the Kayayo people. If you are a young lady and you don't have a child and they're having a discussion and you get there and you want to contribute, they'll tell you, look, it is women talking. And so you can't talk some because you don't have a child. Peer pressure. So you are forced to do what? Find a child or so, get pregnant.
Well, we can see most of the children here, they're like hooligans on the street, but sometimes, the fault is not from them too. Sometimes to the parents too, because some of them, they have things like a kind of, a child labor. They send them out, you can see they work, they go out and they carry one or two stuff like that. So sometimes too from friends too.
So welcome back. I still have my guest in the studio who is helping us understand streetism as it is right now. There are staggering 90,000 plus children living on the streets right now. And if you're a parent and you have a home and you have a roof over your head for your children, you're wondering who is taking care of these kids on the street. And we're talking about it right now. So Ishmael, whose ultimate responsibility is it to take care of them?
Yes, thank you. It is a shared responsibility, and if you look at the report, it said the report states that there should be a common knowledge. We have identified that a lot more children are coming to the streets because they are dropping out of school. Issues of parental difficulties and broken are there, but we have to understand the fundamental causes, and it is everybody's concern. The Department of Social Welfare itself and the Ministry of Child Protection should also come in to raise awareness. It seems also that this time around the bond between parents and children are breaking away. If you look at the statistics, if you take 3 in 5 children, all of them came to the street from the invitation of another street friend that might not have the right information for the child and will also be inexperienced. It's a shared responsibility. People should know that not everything is money. Parents should have enough time for their parents, for their children. Right. Government officials and teachers should also be patient with children, even if they are learning slow. You should give them additional time. If children are able to stay in school, irrespective of their learning difficulties, the issue of street children or the issue of the number of street children that come to the street will be kept. Other than that, more are going to come. So it's a shared responsibility.
But in your interactions with them, do you take some home and then they just refuse to stay and come back?
Yes. All what we do is once we identify you in this, we bring you to our center to get involved in our educational system. But the ultimate is that we reunite you with your family. But the thing is, when a child spends just a week in the streets, they become a totally different person.
Oh, wow.
They become very hardened.
Right.
You are beaten, so you also learn how to beat. This time around, child molestation. They are now they are not even attacking girls. They are defiling boys. It is very serious in the street. It's a shared responsibility, and all of us should help these children get off the street and get back home and go to school.
But have you ever taken any child back and then they've decided, look, I don't want to be with my parents, I want to join you back on the street again? Has it happened?
Yes, it happens all the time.
But what would their reason be for not wanting to be home?
The reason is that these children have been criticized, so they in turn are also condemning everything. They condemning home and they are condemning school.
Right.
The fundamental thing is that they have an underlying problem. That is why you see them to be so difficult, not wanting to go to school. The issue is that most of them cannot cope with academic activities, and they call them names at school, and over at home they don't perform well like their other colleagues.
Other colleagues too.
So they are always being criticized. In turn, they also condemn everything, that home is not for me and school is not for me. They start becoming notorious in their communities, and then they graduate to the streets.
Wow.
So these are some of the issues.
Israel,
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for coming, and we wish you all the best in everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. So, you know, some street children, they, you know, it's amazing to know that we'll take you back home and you don't want to go back home. But Sarah has been out on the streets, so actually ask your views on what you think about this staggering statistic. Let's take our next video blog.
The hardships of the economy. Parents are not able to take care of their children. So you finish SSS, you know how to dress, a young girl is already well developed. They close their eyes and allow you to go hit the streets. However you are going to eat and bring money home, you know, that's the attitude of some parents, okay? But I think the government can do something. I know there are a lot of women who wish they could actually mobilize young people and do programs that will help them. My own sister started a school called School on the Street, okay? School on the Street, what he did was that, and that was in Kumasi, young people who are working on the street, they are working, some of them are in the markets, they say, look, come to my school from 12 o'clock to 1. I'm giving you 1 hour lessons of how to read, how to improve yourself, so that if you want to go to school, you can go to school later. Okay, but apparently when they come, she probably have to feed them. And there's just no enough money to do this kind of thing. So assuming the government had a social program that where people who can do this thing, okay, he gives money to people who can do. There are a lot of women who wants to do women and children things. So if the government can find a way even to lobby abroad for donations of monies to such people, it would have been good. It would have been fantastic. Except there are times where you find, I worked with an NGO before, where, for instance, monies are donated to be given to help HIV patients. And then you see MPs and ministers opening, what's it called? Opening NGOs just to take the money. Now that is unfair.
But the government too should do something to you know, that should, you know, assist them too, as in eradicate, that should stop them from hanging out from the street too, so that the government too can assist them, as in call the police, question the parents too. At least there should be a dialogue between the government and the parents to know what is really going on, because the economic aspect really is down. A lot of people are not being employed and so on like that. So
I think it's the government have to do something about it, because she holds the nation, and you have to start from the decentralization. If she started develop from our rural areas, it will reduce the child trafficking or the unemployed system, so that the parents will get better job to do at their various places. They can take care of their children, so that it will reduce the child problem that we are facing in this country.
welcome back. And some, some WhatsApps have been dropping in as well. And before I go and then take your Facebook comments, we will take those ones. And then when we come back, I'll take some of your comments that have been dropping in on Facebook. And so I have this one, WhatsApp from Anafu Roger Windsor. He says, I think parents have a big role to play as well as the government. We need to re-strengthen the extended family system and also practice birth control to suit the country's crumbling economy. Birth control. I guess I understand where you're coming from, that if you have too many children and you cannot take care of them, then you shouldn't even have them at all. And this one is from Baku A. Latif in Cape Coast. He says, more jobs should be created at different parts of the country, especially in the north, to reduce the pressure in Accra. So you think, of course, I guess I can understand where you're coming from, that migration is also creating all of these problems, that we've all decided to migrate to the capital cities. And so you cannot, put all the pressure on Accra. So let's go now to Facebook and see some of the comments that have been dropping. The precursor has already been set. And, the report says 90,000 children are estimated to be living on the streets of Accra alone. And we were asking you what's contributing to this unfortunate trend, whose responsibility should it be to get children off the streets, and what actions should be taken to get children off the streets. You're sharing all your thoughts with us, and 45 comments have dropped in the last few minutes. And Emmanuel says government, of course. So you're thinking government is to blame, and so government is responsible ultimately. Johnson Obing says unemployment a major cause of all this, since parents are jobless and cannot provide the basic needs like food to such children. They are then motivated to roam about in search of food to make a living. Baba Musa Tamale says this is very alarming and worrying. It is worrying indeed. Kudos says because of unemployment, the parents cannot get a good job to provide their children with better accommodation. The government needs to wake up, otherwise Satan will find a job for them, which we all pray for that it should not happen. So wake up, honorable government. Green Street says bad policies on the part of government. Kojo Mensah says, according to what? According to the report, my dear. Nuruddin says lack of parental control is causing the streetism in Ghana. Many parents have left their children to take care of themselves. Where do you expect such children to go to? They belong nowhere else than the streets. To solve this, we need to make parents responsible for the children they've given birth to. Unemployment should also be addressed to make most jobless parents to be in position to cater for their children. Baba Musa Tamale says one of the contributing factors of this unfortunate menace is street marriages, as the young boys and girls continue to mingle with each other on the streets without homes to lay their heads at night. They end up sleeping in uncompleted structures, verandas, corridors of buildings, and so on. And once there's a little or no monitoring or supervision at all on them, they tend to practice what is meant for adults or married couples, leading to unwanted pregnancies. One way to minimize this phenomenon is for government and other development partners to set up vocational institutions and transfer these street children into these centers for them to be skillfully trained. That is a very good one there from Baba Musa. Belinda says broken home is one major cause of streetism. Another cause is unemployment. It is the social responsibility of every citizen of Ghana to take these children away from the streets. Our fathers and mothers should also think of the negative effects of divorce on children before they do so. Government should also solve unemployment problems in the nation. In that way, streetism will be minimized. Long live Ghana. Bismarck says this is very simple and quite obvious. It's nobody's responsibility than the government. The huge monies that are being spent on our black star players who have made it in life already, that same amount should be spent on these children living on the streets of Ghana with bright future. God should have mercy on this country, Ghana. George says it's all about the economy. Parents should bear it all. Parents can't bear it any longer. Fongo says the responsibility lies on both parents and government. Nuokpo says failure of our institutions like the social welfare, bad policies by the government, unemployment. Parents are frustrated, hence don't care for their children anymore. Unfair share of the national cake, leading to some religions developing more than the others. Really? Oh, regions developing more than the others, and the perception that you can make it in life if you come to a crowd. The government and our parents must sit up. Some policies should be made by the government to clear off these children, because irresponsible parenting is having a greater percentage on them. Ayarega, unemployment on the part of parents, broken homes, and so on and so forth. I think it is the responsibility of parents to get these children out of the street. But here's a case where parents are not financially sound to cater for their children. And I think my last comment, and I would end it, and this is coming from Majid Audu from Gushegu. He says, irresponsible parenting, poverty, bad governance, lack of education, and lies on the part of politicians is what is causing the problem. In fact, Marianne, I'm afraid, if government today cannot solve problems of this nature, then where lies our faith for those children of the future? Abba. And on that Abba note, I drop the curtains for today. Stephen is back, so we can wrap up together. What's up?
Hey.
Terrible, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's pathetic. But, you know, the gentleman you spoke to raised, when I mentioned that you are not poor, he made reference to the fact that it's not only about money. So I think that you shouldn't be rich before you can take care of your children.
I mean, to be a parent, it's a choice that you make, that I want to be a parent.
That's true.
And so you should have the ones you can cater for. If you can't cater for more than 2, just end at 2. Yeah. Anyway,
so on that very sad note, we're bringing you stories you should expect at News at 8 with Israel Lai. Now, the sole judgment debt commissioner, Justice Yao Apao, has had cause to complain about what he says is the politicization of the commission's work by the media. He wants this to stop because, as he said, it is impacting negatively on the commission's work. He explains there is an unwillingness by witnesses to appear before the commission to testify as a result of this.
Also coming up in News at 8 with Israel Lai, the minority MPP members of parliament have taken a swipe at President Mohammed's administration for what it describes as gross mismanagement of the economy at a news conference in Accra to present its version of the state of the nation. Minority leader Osei Mensabosu accused President Mahama and his team, among others, of escalating the country's debt from 9.5 billion Ghana cedis in 2009 to 55.6 billion this year.
Well, so that's it. That's how we wrap for today's Big Story and Interactive segment.
Yep.
My name is Stephen Anti.
And my name is Marianne Toure. Have a good evening.
And up next is Joy News Exclusive. Good evening.
Good evening.